Hello guys, I'm Kim. Now in this video, I want to create an HTML form and I'm going to use PHP to make sure that the data that the user inputs in that form is valid. The first thing I'm going to do is to create a form using HTML. And of course, I'm going to use an action whereby I'm going to link up PHP here. He said, yeah, I'm going to use HTML, the characters. I'm going to create a server, which is a global variable. I'm going to tell it to return to the PHP self. So whatever it gets is going to return in the same page. I'm also going to use a method. I want to use the method, which is the post method. Use the post method. This particular form. Now let us create several inputs. The first input I'm going to create is I will require the user to input his name. So I'm going to create an input. Of course, is a text, and I'm going to give it a name of, let's call it a name. Then I'm going to break. I also want the user to input his email that form. So I'm also going to create another input, but the type this time is not going to be a text, but rather it's going to be an email. I'm also going to create a name, but in this case it's an email. I break again. Then after that we are going to create I also want the user, in the case that the user has a website, can we put that website? We'll have that option, can be a text, and the name is also, in this case it's going to be a website. Also break, make sure that the form looks great. I'm also going to create a section where the user will be required to comment. In this case, we are going to create a text area because we want a big space. We can call it a comment. In this text area, we can create some rows. We wanted to have let's say 5 rows and columns. We wanted to have at most 40 columns. That's perfect, right? The text area we also break. Then I also want the gender of a particular user. So we are going to create an input, but of type radio. We're going to give it a value of first one is going to be male. In the case that the user is a male, we'll create this. Going to break, create another input. In this case, the type is also a radio, and the value will be a female. Yes, male. These days there's more than female, male. We can also create another one for those guys. Yeah. Let's be inclusive. Let's call them others. Others or other. Let's give it a value of other. After this, here we can create a break. Yes. Then we want to create another input, which will be the submit button. Going to be the submit. Going to create a value. Going to be submit. Wait. Yes. Let's see how our form looks like. The browser. Now it looks like this. As you can see, we have a name, we have an email, we have a website, and we have a comment. We have a place where a radio button. You can input your either male, female, or even a, what do you call it, another, right? So far so good. Now guys, we have already created a form. As you can see, let me show. This is the form that we have already created. And when we submit this form, nothing happens. I'm now clicking in this submit button and nothing is happening. Now we are going to create a PHP code that is going to get what the user inserts in that form, and we are also going to make sure that that information is validated and secure. Now let's do that. Now we are going to create first of all the PHP syntax. The first thing we are going to do is we are going to create several variables for each input. The first thing is going to be for the name, and it's also going to be equals to the also an email. If you can remember, we have created an email. Let me show you. There it is. The first one is for the name, we are going to create for the email, and now for the website, equals to the website, we are creating variables. Website. We are also going to create another one for the comment. We also have a comment in that form. And remember, we have comment in the text area. And finally, we are also going to create another one for the gender. Yes, this one. This, we have them, the gender. And all these variables are going to be equal to an empty string. At first, it's going to be an empty string. Now we are going to create a function, and the purpose of this function will be checking or to validate this input. All right, it is going to make sure that in case a user inserts a name, let me show you. Let's, for instance, I insert my name Kelvin, and I decide to insert my other name here. All this in between here, there's all this space. So we want to tell PHP to make sure that it doesn't return this information in our database with this space, but it's going to ignore it. All right, I hope you get my point. So we are going to create this function, and we can give it a name of we want to test the test input. Let's test input, because it's what is going to be the user inputs. And inside here, we are going to pass an argument and create a variable called data. And down here inside this function, we are going to say whenever this function is called, it's going to find that we have this variable called data, and in the first case, it's going to trim that information inside that data. That is the first thing that is going to check. Then it's going to take information inside that data. This information, it checks it again. It is going to strip all the slashes. Yes, slash. And this is a slash, something like this. In case a user inputs that, it's going to strip it out to remove it. It is not going to return it in our database or of that data, right? And the final thing that I want it to validate is it goes to that data variable, and it's going to remove all HTML special characters. All right, I said that data. HTML special characters are something like less than, greater than. You see, less than, sometimes in HTML, instead of writing less than like this, you can write it like this. It can be something like this, less than. See, that's it. So in case a user inputs something like this, the HTML special character is going to convert it something like this, because in HTML this can be confused, less than can be confused with something like a tag, because as you know, when you create an element, it's something between an opening and a closing tag. And finally, it's going to return that data after it has trimmed it, removed flashes, and all this HTML character. I hope guys you're getting my point. Now after that, we are going to use an if statement to get that information. So if $, if the server, if this global variable called server, it realizes that this form uses the post method. All right. If it realizes that the request method, that the request, sorry for that, the request method in that form, the request method is equals to post, right? If it is in that case, it is going to create the first thing we are going to create a variable name is equals to create that variable called name, and in this case we are going to create for this input name a variable for it. So it is going to call test the function called test input. All right, test input. All right. So in the case that the server realizes that we are using the method post, it is going to create a variable, and this variable is going to call the function test. This function is going to call this function test input, and as you can remember, this is the function test input. So in the name, it's going to test input data, and this data is what we are going to input inside here. So in that case, what will be the data? Now it is going to use the post method, because it's using the post method to call what, to get what. So it's going to use the post method to get this name, to get the name, to use the post method, get the name. Simple as that. Right? So it will become in creating a variable called name. It goes to the function, it calls this function, which is this, and it gets the data. In this case, the data is the name, and that name is the name, for instance, Kelvin, that the user inputs, and it's going to check that name. Does that name Is that name trimmed? If in that case it's not trimmed, it trims it. Does it contain a strip slashes? It removes them. Hey, does it contain special characters? It removes it from the data, and in this case, the data is the name. I hope you are getting it. We also created for another one for the variable for the email. Again, we call the test input, right? We use using the post method, post, but instead of calling the name, email, call the email. Why are we calling the email? Because here, as you can see, the name is the email. So it comes and calls this email. Again, because the test function, it goes and performs the same instructions inside that function. It returns that data, in this case, an email, after it has trimmed all of this. Hope you are getting, guys. If you don't understand, you can comment. I will explain further. So we also have a website, as you can remember. Get another one. We also call our function again user post method, and you can use. We have two methods. We can get information from a data using either the post method or the get method. But it's advisable to use the post method, because the post method is more secure, and again it allows you to input more words, and the method is not that more secure. Right? In this case, no, use use story dot caps, use website the website name. After that, we will call the comment. You can remember up there we have a comment. It is also call the test input, put a function from the same thing, post. In this case, again, what are we going to call? We're going to call comment. Let me confirm. Yes, comment. How we again we do for the gender. In this case, the name is the gender. Right. So we create another variable. What is the name of that variable? We are going to call it gender. Gender. So pass we also call the function test input. Right. Use the post method. We call the gender. Right. So far so good. Now input. We're receiving an error. Now guys, Oh, the error we are receiving is because of this one. As you can see, the function should be like this, test underscore, not, but here we had put a minus. Should be like that, underscore. I think so far so good. Far so fine. You can see we are receiving these errors because we haven't inputted anything in these fields. But in the case we do something like this, input something, and we see that the gender is male, we submit. See, you are receiving nothing. Now the next thing we are going to do is we are going to tell PHP. First of all, let's create another PHP. Okay. Now we're going to tell PHP now to echo all of those. So we're going to tell PHP echo or print, sorry, echo $sign name. It's going to echo name. It's going to break. And again, we tell it to echo. The next thing we want it to echo is email. Then it's going to break. What else should it echo? We have website, comment, gender. Let's say to echo for website. Website. We also break. The next thing we are going to echo is echo. Website, we are going for the comment. We are going to break. And finally, it's going to echo or print, if you are, as you call it in Python, the gender. Right. So far, so good. Now let's go to our form. Let's refresh it. You can see. Let's first call it again. There is our form. Field must be filled. So that's what it's returning. Because you haven't filled anything, it will bring this error. Now let's input. Let's say your name is, my case, mine, Kelvin. Then my email, let's say this is my email. Let's say my website is kelvin.co.ke, and I want to say hello, this is Kelvin, and a mail. Now when we submit, you can see we have echoed Kelvin, which we said echo name, echo email, echo the website, echo the information or the comment, and eventually uh, tell us the gender. Now what happens, it is not going to be returning in the real professional world. All this information will be submitted in a database. So the purpose of PHP is to get the form data and transport it or take it to the database. Let's say we have a database where we have a column called name and another one for email. So it is going to input each in its column. And if you don't know what a database is a collection of data which contains several rows and columns. You know, database is created, it contains tables, all those rows and columns, and it uses DBMS, database management system, such as my rational database or non-rational. For rational database is MySQL. For non-rational or NoSQL is something like MongoDB. So thank you so much for following this video. I hope you learned something. And if I wasn't so clear, I apologize for that. I will improve next time. And also, if it's educative, please consider subscribing, liking, and following this page. Yeah, thank you so much.